All right, everybody, it is 10 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining the Textile Road and Woodland Drive virtual construction information meeting hosted by the Washtenaw County Road Commission. We're glad everybody could join us today. We've got some great information to share with you today. And so my name is Emily and I'm the meeting host. I'm the communications manager at the Road Commission. And today, like I said, this is the Textile and Woodland Roundabout construction information meeting. So for today's meeting, we've got just we're going to do a quick rundown. We'll do some short housekeeping items, and then the project managers involved will give a presentation about what you can expect to see with this construction. And then we'll open it up to questions and answers, and I'll explain how we'll do the questions and answers through Zoom. So our presenters today are Brent Schlack. He is the Assistant Director of Engineering at the Road Commission, and he is in charge of, has been really involved with the design and process of this project, and his contact information is here. And then we'll also be joined by Michelle Ford. She is the project manager at the Road Commission, and her contact information is here. As mentioned, we've got a couple things, quick housekeeping things here. Zoom does allow chat, and so chat for us on this meeting is for tech support only. So if you're having issues with audio or seeing the screen share, please message us with the chat feature. If you have questions, we'll open it up to at the end for questions, but we're not monitoring the chat for project-specific questions at this time. The meeting audio and video right now is being recorded and will be posted to the Road Commission's website, wcroads.org, in the coming days. As I mentioned, you will be asked if you want to ask any questions during the question and answer period. We will ask you to virtually raise your hand, and I'll explain how to do that when we get to that point. With that, I'll turn it over to Brent.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in our virtual public meeting for the Textile and Woodland project. So construction during COVID-19, I know we've had some questions regarding road construction during the pandemic, and this has been considered essential by state and federal officials. So precautions will be taken by our workforce and by the contractor during this time to protect our employee safety. We do ask that the public do not approach our employees as they're performing their work. And we also ask that they please stay out of the work area. I know a lot of neighbors and people in the area get curious about the construction and the progress that we make, but this can then help be unsafe for the area, especially if somebody doesn't have the right personal protection equipment. And it can also affect the social distancing that we are all trying to adhere to. So we're here for the Textile and Woodland Roundabout project. And I don't know if you can move forward to the next slide. So just some background on the project. We applied for a safety grant through MDOT. We actually applied for this grant back in August of 2017. So it's been a little bit of time. That was through me and my staff where we applied for it. Unfortunately, the safety grants are reactive type grants. So based on the crash histories and some of the crash patterns that we've seen out there is the reasons that we've applied for this money. So during this process, we applied for two scenarios. We applied for a center left turn lane on Textile Road turning onto Woodland, and then our preferred alternative, the roundabout, which is what got selected. So the funding was awarded in February of 18, and since that time we've been working through design plans to lead up to construction. So the grant that we were awarded was a 90-10, which means 90% funded federally and 10% matched by the locals. This 10% match is being shared with us at the Road Commission and the City of Ann Arbor, or City of Saline, I'm sorry. So, and then also this grant can only be used at this location. It's a capped grant. So what that means is we have a certain amount of funding, and anything above that amount is responsible for the locals. Go ahead and move to the so why a roundabout? The reasons that we started a roundabout were due to the history of some of the crashes that we've seen at this intersection, and some of them have been serious. So unfortunately, we had those serious crashes, and roundabouts do an excellent job of reducing or eliminating these serious, severe crashes. It also provides some traffic calming. So the roundabouts slow the traffic down as you enter the roundabout, and it can reduce congestion and help traffic move more efficiently. Another reason that we like the roundabout is just to the east of the intersection is a pedestrian crossing. So the roundabout fits really well with this pedestrian crossing because we can have a splitter island, and Michelle will go through some of the construction on what those are. But those splitter islands provide some refuge for the pedestrians and allow the pedestrians to cross one leg of the intersection at a time, or one leg of each lane at a time. Go ahead, Emily. So some of the safety benefits that we see through this project, that we're going to see through this project, are, of course, safety, with us choosing the roundabout and the congestion through the roundabout. And then the improvements that we're going to see are better drainage and, of course, new pavement.
Thanks, Brent.
Yep, so now I'll pass it on to Michelle, and Michelle can talk about the next step in the project, which is the construction.
Okay, so if some of you are familiar with the area, you may have seen earlier this spring, we removed the trees that were required to be taken down for the project, and we're very careful which trees we target. They are the only ones that were absolutely required to be removed. And then this summer, we're going to install a 3-legged single-lane roundabout. It'll have curb and gutter with some enclosed storm sewer that'll help with the drainage. And then we are going to build ADA compliant ramps for the Textile road crossing, and street lights will also be included as part of the intersection. So here's a rendering of what the project is going to look like. And you can see that the extent of it, it starts a little bit west of the Silver Maple Drive and McCormick Drive intersection with Textile Road. And to the east, it goes a little bit past the ball fields, and then to the south to the entrance at Teff Park. And we're going to install 3 different crosswalks, one on each leg. The crosswalk on the east leg is going to connect to existing pathways and sidewalks. And then the other 2 crosswalks are for a future pathway that is in development by Pittsfield Township. Can move ahead. And so I just included a few slides with kind of milestone construction that you'll see. The contractor will decide the exact timing of these, but it'll just give you an idea of sort of the sequence of construction. So once we shut down the intersection, we'll be removing the current pavement. So all of that will come out, and then they will start to begin the grading, install some of the storm sewer to get it ready for the other aspects that are going to be going on. And then you'll see the curb, they'll have to put in forms so that they can pour that curbing, and drainage structures will be installed around the same time that they'll be doing the curb forming. So then they're going to pour the concrete, and it takes a while for the concrete to gain sufficient strength, and it can easily be damaged. So this is a really important time that we make sure that we do not work too closely to that new concrete because we don't want any damage on it. And then once the concrete reaches the desired strength, we'll go ahead and fill in the middle with more concrete, but it's going to be a red color to help improve visibility as you're approaching the roundabout. We'll have a central island, as you see on all the other roundabouts. It too will have a red coloring. This helps with visibility. We are not going to have any landscaping in the middle of this one. That's to keep our sight distance, but it also helps with long-term maintenance, so we don't have to worry about keeping that mode or having any agreements on the maintenance for that. And then paving will come along. They'll put down asphalt paving. They'll do the permanent signs at this time, and all the roadside ditches will be completed. And then the pavement markings will come in, and a lot of these are becoming familiar to Washtenaw County motorists. You'll see the yield word go in, the arrow symbols that we have, it'll go around the roundabout, and then also the crosswalks. And you can see at the end of the splitter islands, there's some yellow cross hatching as well to help begin to guide the traffic as they approach the roundabout. And then street lighting, oh, that's right, street lighting is also going to be on there. You can kind of see the street lights around the roundabout on that particular one. So our timeline is we're going to start mid-June. We don't have an exact date for that yet, but we will be putting changeable message signs out approximately 2 weeks before we start construction. So you'll start to see that. We also will be putting out project alerts. If you sign up on our project page, you can get an alert that project will begin, and it'll also start to appear on our weekly road work schedule. And we plan to be completed by the end of August. The contractor generally is allowed to work Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They work some Saturdays, they may not work all, but in general, we do not have Sunday work occurring. And impact to traffic, there is going to be an impact to traffic. So the intersection is going to be closed for approximately 8 weeks to all traffic. That includes pedestrians and bicyclists. We have found recently that pedestrians and bicyclists don't always think that the closure applies to them, but it does as well, and that is for the safety of the traveling public. It's also for the safety of our workers, and it protects our new construction. We have had some recent occurrences of vehicles and or people entering closures, and we have had damage that's resulted with a large cost implication, but also a time implication. It increases the length of the closure, and we would like to get this done as quickly as possible for everyone. But you will still be able to access Teff Park and Saline Recreation Center from the south, and the contractor is required to maintain access for emergency vehicles. This is a general picture of our detour. It'll be along Maple Road, then to Ellsworth, and then to Lohr. The Woodland Drive traffic will be directed toward Maple, and then they'll follow the detour from there. And some roundabout reminders. We know that some people are still uncomfortable traveling in a roundabout. So one of the biggest things that we want to remind people is that as you're approaching the roundabout, you are to yield to the cars within the roundabout. So a yield sign means that you should slow down, stop when necessary, and then you defer to the oncoming traffic. The vehicles within the roundabout have the right of way, and you are not to merge. It's a yield, not merge. And just remember that yield is your shield as you are traveling within the roundabout. And I'll pass it over to Brent for some information on the pedestrian crossings.
So like I stated earlier, we have the splitter islands, which Michelle kind of outlined in her during the construction. So what we really want to stress for pedestrians is they're crossing one leg at a time. So they want to make eye contact with that vehicle that's either circulating the roundabout or approaching the roundabout. And like you can see in this picture here, the pedestrian is actually pointing at the vehicle. And some people encourage pedestrians that are walking through roundabouts to do that so that they know that that driver sees them and they're making eye contact.
Okay, if you would like to learn more about the project, there's some information here. You can sign up on our website. There'll be a project page, and you can sign up for update emails. That'll give you information on construction, when we're going to start. Emily is also very good about sending out project updates throughout construction with pictures, so you can see the progress that we're making. And if you have specific questions about it, you are welcome to reach out to me. My phone number and my email are listed there, and I will respond to any questions that you have. Okay, that brings us to our question and answer, and Emily can give some instructions on how we are going to do that.
All right, everybody. Again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you found the information useful. If you are viewing the meeting from your computer or smartphone and would like to ask a question, make sure first that you click Join Audio at the bottom, and then you can raise your hand by clicking the Participants button at the bottom. We've got a screenshot here showing where you should find that, and then the Raise Hand button at the bottom right of your screen. If you dialed into the meeting from your touch-tone phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. As the meeting host, I will unmute participants with raised hands one at a time. I will announce your username or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to speak. We're happy to answer as many questions as possible, but please be respectful of everybody's time. If your question is answered before you're called on, you can lower your hand by clicking the lower hand button or dialing *9 again. So is there anybody that'd like to virtually raise their hand to ask a question? Brent, I do have a question for you that came through from the chat. This person is saying that they're confused about the necessity of a roundabout at this intersection. I think they may have joined after we talked about that. Do you want to talk a little bit about just a quick rehash of the history of this and why a roundabout is going in at this intersection?
Sure. So the intersection does meet warrants based on volumes and delay for a traffic signal. And that's kind of one of the things that we look at to determine what type of control should go there. And through our experience with roundabouts, we really felt this was a good choice for this intersection due to calming the traffic, due to the severity of the crashes. So what we're seeing with the crashes is, and if you go through this intersection, there's a lot of people that are using the right shoulder or what would that be, the westbound shoulder to get around vehicles turning left onto Woodland. Well, that's really not a safe action for vehicles, and it can cause some rear-ending. And then also what we see are vehicles coming off of Woodland, they're being delayed due to some of the volume on Textile. Now, is this not all the time? No, but there are times during the day where you have such a delay, people get, they really want to get out onto Textile Road, and so that delay causes them to then take gaps that aren't appropriate, and then crashes can occur. So with that, that's why we applied for 2 different types of treatments, one being a center left turn lane, and of course a roundabout was our preferred option due to the reasons that we stated earlier in the slides. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, certainly my contact information's on the slides, and I can talk to you outside of the meeting.
Thanks, Brent. We do have Jim Miller has raised his hand. So Jim, you're unmuted, and please ask your question.
Hi, Emily. First up, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm representing the East Horizons Homeowner Association. We have about 68 homes in our subdivision just north of Textile. And I actually have 3 questions. First one is the Detour signs. When will they start going up to give regular drivers on Textile a heads up that they're going to have to plan a significant detour?
Brent, you
I don't know
want
if you want me to answer that. So ahead of the project, we will have message boards. So the contractor is required to have those message boards up to, I think, 14 days. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle. Up prior to the detour being put in place. So that will inform the motorists that are actually using the route. Of course, then we'll have all of our other communication that Emily puts out, informing the public that the closure is soon to happen.
Brent, that's excellent. I completely understand that. Emily, is it okay if I ask another question?
Go ahead.
We currently have a pedestrian walkway across Textile that is included in the scope of this project. I'm assuming that that walkway will be closed during the duration of the construction. Will there be, how will you close that walkway? Are you going to put a sign at Textile and Creekview Court that says the walkway is closed, or will there simply be a fence down at the walkway saying it's closed?
So we included within the project pedestrian barricades. So those will be closed in advance of a pedestrian getting down to that location to inform those pedestrians that it's closed. So yes, it will be closed. It'll be closed to all pedestrians, and we'll try and capture those. Certainly, if we need to put something a little more in advance, we can do that if it's not adequate and we're seeing people try to go down that path.
Thank you, Brent. I understand completely. I'll just get some more steps in on my daily exercise. Last question is coordination with the Pittsfield Police Department. I see Richie's on the line. We've been in conversation with Richie, and members of our HOA have been in conversation with Pittsfield Police in regards to our expectation is that people are going to, some folks are not going to take the detour and the official detour, and they're going to head into the subdivisions, and they'll probably head down Oakview Drive. As part of that, there has been discussion about putting up one of the traffic radar signs to inform people what the speed limit is and what their speed is, and also increasing patrols both during the commuting hours and potentially in the late evenings when people may be trying to pick their way through the neighborhood in the dark after, well, someday when the bars reopen. Richie and anyone else, are we good for that? Do we need we've had a number of homeowners volunteer their driveways if any of the police need a place to park in a high visibility or low visibility area through the subdivision.
We have been in contact with them. They're a great partner. Richie does a great job, and we'll continue to communicate with him and with the homeowners in the area. We'll monitor the situation, and we can make adjustments to our closure as necessary. Certainly the speed radar sign will help, and their presence will definitely deter anybody trying to cut through or not respecting your neighborhood.
Brent, that is great. I had one other question come in from one of my homeowners about traffic calming devices along anywhere in the subdivision. I've communicated with Michelle in the past about this, and we understand the restrictions that this is a public road, but I think we're kind of limited there. Does anyone have any dissent to that? I mean, I think it's just what it is.
Yeah, we do have a traffic calming program, but those are for permanent installations. Certainly the radar sign that Pittsfield's looking to put out will provide a lot of assistance to those drivers. Those work really good, and of course they got to be in short increments, short periods of time. But as far as any type of traffic calming temporarily, we don't have anything in place to allow those, or anything that's approved that has gone through a rigorous process to determine what's acceptable and what's not. Now, if once the project has been constructed and there's still cut through or speeding, we can certainly give you information on our neighborhood traffic management program, and you can apply for that. And there's a certain process for that to get permanent traffic calming devices.
And just for clarity, I'm sorry, Jim, just for clarity for everybody else on the call, generally traffic calming devices are speed humps that are put in permanently, as Brent said. So traffic calming and speed humps are usually synonymous.
Yeah.
Okay, Brent, thank you very much. Emily, I appreciate the time. And again, thank you for conducting this meeting. It'll make it a lot easier to communicate out to my neighbors and the subdivisions next to us. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to mute you
Thank
now.
you.
And we do have a question from Charlie Waterhouse. Charlie, you are unmuted. Please ask your question.
Thank you very much. I had two questions. One of them was about temporary speed bumps in the neighborhood, and that just got answered. The other one was for Michelle, maybe. How far down in each direction on Textile will the curbing go?
Michelle, do you want me to go back to the rendering slide?
That might be helpful. Yeah, if we can
Okay.
show the rendering slide.
Hold on.
There it is. Okay. So the curbing, we'll have curbing all along through the roundabout area. And then it's also, my understanding is going to be along the intersections as well, like around the curves for those. And so much of the project will have it. So if you, this isn't blown up, if you go to our website, you'll be able to do kind of a blown up version of this, and you can see the curbing a little bit better. It is distinguished on this rendering with a certain symbol. So it's hard for me because I can't point to it. Emily's controlling the thing, but you can see there's a little spillway where she's got her cursor, and drainage will come out from there, and it goes all the way around. So pretty much around most of the project. Brent, do you have any? It's hard to explain just from this.
So does it go all the way down to Silver Maple and McCormick?
Yes. So the curb will go from the roundabout, and it'll go around the radiuses of Silver Maple and McCormick, and it'll go all the way down to Teff Park, and for the entrance to Teff Park, and to the east, it looks like it'll go just to the end of the splitter island, which is the red portion. Yeah, so it'll go right to the end of that is where the curbing will go.
Okay, thank you.
And Charlie, we will send an email to the groups, the people who subscribe to receive emails. We'll send an email after this meeting with a recording of the meeting, a link to that, but also a link to the rendering so you can see it on a larger scale, just for clarity.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will mute you again. We did have a question come in through the chat. Brent or Michelle, will the speed limit on Textile Road between Lore and Maple be lowered from 50 miles an hour after the roundabout is installed?
We can certainly look at that. Speed limits are a tricky process as far as how they're evaluated and how they are established. So we certainly can look at that. Typically, we have to have a half a mile increment to establish a speed limit, and that may be real close as far as that segment. But we can certainly take a look at it once the project's over with.
Well, and two, Brent, can you talk a little bit about roundabouts are great because they really do slow down traffic versus a traffic signal. Can you explain that just briefly?
Sure. So whenever a vehicle enters or approaches the roundabout, they have to slow down. Typically, it's about 15 miles an hour. They have to come to that speed to circulate the roundabout. So they're a great tool for traffic calming and slowing that traffic down, which then also assists with crashes, severity of crashes, And so you see that throughout all the roundabouts that we've constructed in Washtenaw County.
Thanks, Brent. David Saxon has raised his hand. David, you are now unmuted. Go ahead.
Thanks. A couple of questions. First, will the pathway there, the walking path, be closed off as well? And not the crosswalk, but the walkway that it connects to around Tech Park?
No, the sidewalk will remain open that goes by the ball fields. I assume that's what you're referring to. Yeah, those will be open. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're far enough away from any type of work. Now, certainly whenever we go to tie in the crossing that crosses across Textile, there may be some type of closure that we may need to do, but I doubt that we would have to do anything to close that throughway path, I guess, or sidewalk.
Okay. And the second question is are there any incentives in the contract or anything that's going to help assure that this thing gets done on time?
We don't have any incentives. We're not allowed to do those as a local agency, but the progress schedule that we've received through the contractor, they've assured us that they'll get completed and open in the time frame that we've indicated. Now, we can't control the weather, and things like that can certainly delay us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm going to mute you. I don't see any other raised hands. Is there anybody else on the line that would like to ask a question? As a reminder, if you have called in, you can dial *9 to virtually raise your hand. Or if you are on your computer, you can click down at the bottom and click participants, and then you should see on the right side, raise hand, and we would be able to see you. Oh, it looks like Charlie Waterhouse has another question. Charlie, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. You had mentioned with the other crosswalks that Pittsfield Township has more plans for extending the walkway. Do you have any information on that?
We have worked with them somewhat on that, but they're waiting for our project to get completed before they finalize those plans. I know they're looking to extend their pathway down Textile, but I don't know they have not finalized those. So once they do, we'll certainly be working with them because it'll be within the roadway right away, but they're waiting for our project to get finished.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. We have a raised hand from Berwick. Berwick, you are now unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My second question was actually answered by just a second ago about the walkway. Just wondering if you're working with Pittsfield Township on that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that, apologies as I missed the beginning of the meeting. I understand, I was hoping you could go a little bit more into depth about the reasons behind the roundabout. You mentioned traffic accidents, and I am familiar with the death of the poor gentleman from a couple of years ago, but other than that, I'm not familiar with really any traffic accidents that occurred there.
So whenever we applied for the grant, we applied for two different scenarios, which was a center left turn lane on Textile turning onto Woodland, and the roundabout, which the roundabout was our preferred alternative. And fortunately, they funded that. But we looked at it as far as reducing congestion, calming the traffic, because what the patterns that we were seeing out there are, and if you drive through there today, people are using that northern shoulder for the westbound to get around vehicles turning onto Woodland. That's really not a safe action, and that causes rear ends, that causes other, and we do have, we witnessed that and observed that as we were applying for the grant, and we do have some crashes that are recorded for that. The other issue is vehicles pulling off of or turning off of Woodland, the delay. So they get delayed and then they get anxious, and they take gaps that are not appropriate. And that's unfortunately what happened with the motorcyclists.
Yeah.
And due to that concerns, a roundabout was chosen. It does meet warrants for a traffic signal, and some of those are major warrants, which means that we have warrants that are like 8 hours. So 8 hours of the day, it warrants a traffic signal, which is a major warrant. And we use that as kind of a baseline on determining, well, what type of improvement should we do here? And of course, a roundabout was our choice, but we kind of use that as a baseline for some of the choices of whether it's a roundabout or a signal, are those warrant, because there's really not any warrant mechanism for a roundabout, but there's a lot of benefits from utilizing roundabout.
Okay. And last question, can you compare this roundabout to the one at Moon and Bemis where we've had a number of incidents?
So this one is not like the one at Moon and Bemis. Moon and Bemis is a smaller diameter.
It is small. Okay.
Yeah, and so this one is more along the lines of Ann Arbor Saline and Textile, or
Okay.
Scioto Church and Wagner. It's a larger diameter.
Fabulous, because that one is scary. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question from Sharon. Sharon, you are now unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this is Ed.
Oh, hi, Ed.
Yeah, I'm just borrowing her computer here. So, do you know when the Wagner Saline Ann Arbor, that's a roundabout as well, correct? When that's going to be completed and when that traffic will kind of be lifted off from Maple?
So the Wagner Ann Arbor Saline intersection is not a roundabout.
Okay.
That's going to be a traffic signal. And I'll let Emily's running that project as well. They're getting really close, but I don't know the schedule on where that one stands.
Brent, do you mean Michelle?
Or Michelle, my gosh.
All right. So yeah, the Ann Arbor Saline at Wagner intersection, like Brent said, that's going to be a traffic signal. That is one of our intersections where we had a motorist enter the closure and did some damage to concrete, which has lengthened the amount of time that that closure is going to need to occur, because we had to tear out damaged concrete and replace it. So right now I don't have an absolute end date, but I'm going to say it's probably going to be a few more weeks and then it will be open. It will definitely be open before this project begins.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of one of my thoughts and concerns. So I live in Maple Creek and I'm on the board for our HVOA. So I guess the assumption is we're going to get detour traffic cutting through, right? And I know Richie can help, but what would you guys recommend if we see a large increase and folks not abiding by the detours? And I think they can get Maple Park Drive off from Maple, right through East Horizons, even through Lower Lake, all the way to Lower Road. So once folks kind of learn that and they don't have to do the longer detour, what do you guys recommend we do to, if anything, to try to slow that down?
At this time, we would just rely on Pittsfield Police. Certainly, I know in some instances we've put additional signage, which we could potentially look at, but we want to observe it once it closes. And we'll certainly be in touch with yourself and your neighbors, and please be in contact with Michelle, and we can make a plan of action for how to address some of those issues. And we'll work with Richie and Pittsfield Township on their patrols and ideas that they may have as well.
Okay. You mentioned a neighborhood traffic something. Could you just expand on that a little bit?
Sure. It's our neighborhood traffic management program, and it's a traffic calming program, which we have. Most of the time it's speed humps, but we have a whole tool bag of options that we can look at, chicanes and different treatments. And so it's a separate program from, of course, this project, but it's a process where we get petitions from the neighbors, and we and then ultimately it can lead to having some type of devices constructed within your subdivision.
Okay, yeah, that's good news. Because I guess I'd always heard that since the roads are owned by Washtenaw, sorry, I'm losing my thought here. I thought we could not put those up because of snow plowing and things like that, the traffic bumps.
No, actually, we are one of, we might be the only road commission that allows traffic calming. We did an extensive study to determine what would be acceptable for our underbody plows. And so we do have a lot of different options that are permissible on local roads, local subdivision roads.
Okay, and do you?
Oh, Ed, I'm sorry. You can find out, we've got a lot of information about the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program on our website, which is wcroads.org. Because
Okay.
as Brent said, there is a whole process. It has to be studied. There's petitions involved. And so there's information like that up on our website.
Okay, yep, that sounds great. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. And I do want to mention that we've got Lieutenant Williams from Pittsfield Police on, and he's said a couple times in chat that he just wanted us to let everybody know that any affected neighborhoods can contact Pittsfield Police regarding traffic concerns, and they will address and conduct directed patrols within those areas and take actions as necessary. So he just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. They're aware of this project. They're on the call today. So they've been great partners with us. I'm going to mute you now, Ed. Is there anybody else with questions who would like to virtually raise their hand? Okay, Brent and Michelle, anything else you'd like to add? It looks like we've answered questions and addressed everybody's questions. I'll go back to our last slide here to show contact information.
If anyone has any questions, they're welcome to either call me or email me, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. And, you know, we're looking forward to getting this project done. We think it's going to be a great improvement to the area.
Yeah, thank you for attending. And yeah, please contact us if you have any further questions.
Great, thanks Michelle and Brent, and everybody again, thank you for joining us for a virtual construction information meeting. We really encourage you to visit wcroads.org to check out the project page. If you go to the current projects tab there, and if you get to the project page, you can subscribe to receive email updates, and we'll send out regular email updates throughout construction. So thanks everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.